Barakatah Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Rachah Kodash. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is The Waters Were Made Bitter. And pretty much this lesson came through the inspiration of the scripture in 2nd Ezra, the 5th chapter, which we're going to go through. And, I just wanted to touch on that. The brother Bakwar Amath had asked about this probably about 3 weeks ago or so. And Elder Pastor went through 2nd Ezra 5. He went through a few of the verses in it. And I had forgot that the brother asked, me to go through it. And the Elder Pastor happened to be there and caught it, and he spirit jumped on him to do the lesson. So I just kind of wanted to touch up on that, just wanted to bring out another point based off of one particular verse. And I got a couple of precepts I wrote down to go with the lesson. And then after that, wherever the spirit leads, that's where we're going to be, Lord's will. So let's get started. What you're looking at here is pretty much contaminated waters. And these are all dead fish, from the contamination of these waters. And that's why you see a lot of whales and dolphins and just sea life dying or, trying to get out of that water. Because of the bottom line is that the waters are polluted. But after the destruction, that nuclear fire is going to bring purification, but it's also going to bring contamination to these waters. And then once the elect come back down on the earth, they're going to set everything back in order, And the nations, they're going to be working. That's why the scripture said it's going to be continual employment. There's going to be a lot of dead bodies to bury, which is going to be nutrients for the soil. There's going to be a lot of cleaning up to do. A lot of building to do, so that's the times that we're coming to, once this whole shithole goes down. So the scripture we're going to deal with is 2nd Ezra 5. I'm going to read the first verse and I'm going to jump down to the main point. And then from there, Lord's will, hit some of these precepts. And then if the Spirit allows, we may go back over some more of these other points here, further down. Because like I said, Elder Pastor covered the first 8, 9 verses or something like that, 10 verses. I don't really remember, but I know he covered this already. So with that being said, let's get into it. 2nd Ezra 5:1. Nevertheless is coming the tokens, or in the book form it says concerning the tokens. And this is why some people have a problem with books being put up on the web, because once you have a misprint, no one goes back to fix it. But nevertheless, as concerning the tokens, and the tokens, what is a token? A token is something that's, evidence of something that's going to come to pass. Matter of fact, let's go here. Let's get the word token. And it says, a thing serving as a visible or tangible representation of a fact, quality, feeling. Yeah. And in this case is what? It's dealing with the evidence of prophecies that the Lord spoke about in the scriptures. There's a lot of different things that are evident, that are happening, that are speaking what the Heavenly Father had his prophets write down in the scriptures. So it says, nevertheless, as concerning the tokens, behold, the days shall come, that they which dwell upon earth shall be taken in a great number. And this is the point we're coming to right now, the time of Jacob's trouble, which we're at the door of it, but not necessarily. The door is open, but Jake hasn't really gone past the threshold into Jacob's trouble, but it's here. It's coming. It's building up. You see the prices of things skyrocketing because of inflation, and also because of purposely, the shortages that are done on purpose, the bottleneck that has been done on purpose, because there is a agenda that these devils are pushing, and that's one of the things. The major what's the word I'm looking for? The major motivator, for lack of better words, is hunger. So it says that they which dwell upon earth shall be taken in great number, and the way of truth shall be hidden, and the land shall be barren of faith. And we've gone through that, back in the past before we woke up. And you still have people today among Jake that still, the path of truth is still hidden to them. They're barren of faith. Even though the truth and the proper breakdown is out there, you still have a lot of Jakes out there that's barren of faith. And that's what the scriptures speak about, the famine of the word that's coming. Right? Matter of fact, let's read on. But iniquity shall be increased above that which now thou seest, or that thou hast heard long ago. And this is why Yahushua said that the love of many shall wax cold. So what I want to do is I just want to jump straight down to the 7th verse right here. It says, and the Sodomite sea shall cast out fish and make a noise in the night, which many have not known, but they shall all hear the voice thereof. And when it speaks about hearing the voice thereof, meaning that the prophecies of the Lord taking hold, on the earth and speaking in the terms of the accomplishment or fulfillment of prophecy, and what this is speaking about contamination. You have contamination now that's killing, even when they open up whales, or they open up sharks, or they open up these different type of fish, there's all types of pollutants inside of them, from different plastics, different things that they ingest while they're trying to eat food, to different drugs, pharmaceutical drugs that are found inside of these fish. So the waters are contaminated, but they're not going to be as contaminated as when the nuclear radiation hits them, because that's what's going to happen. There's going to be radioactivity that's coming from these missiles, and this is why they showed you in different movies when people get hit with a nuclear bomb, the ones that do survive, or it could be atomic bomb or other types of bomb. And the people that survive, a lot of them are hit with radiation poison, and that radiation poison messes them up, and it's a slow death, right? So I looked up this word radioactive contamination, right? So I'm going to read a couple of points in here. It says radioactive active contamination, also called radiological contamination, is the deposition of or presence of radioactive substances on surfaces or within solids, liquids, or gases, including the human body, where their presence is unintended or undesirable. From the International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA definition, such contamination presents a hazard because of the radioactive decay of the contaminants, right? And what they do is they destroy the cells in the body. This is why when somebody has cancer, what do? They give them chemotherapy, and chemotherapy is nothing more than radiation that destroys both good and bad cells, And if the person is healthy enough, or if the person is strong enough, they can get through all of the whatever they got to go through and be built back up. And sometimes that works, but that's barbaric, because it causes, nausea, it causes people's hair to fall out, it causes them all type of pain. When all you have to do is pray to Yahweh Bashem El Shai and take the proper, the proper herbs. It says, which produces such harmful effects as ionization, radiation, namely alpha, beta, and gamma rays, and free neutrons. The degree of hazard is determined by the concentration of the contaminants, the energy of the radiation being emitted, the type of radiation, and the proximity of the contamination to organs of the body. It is important to be clear that the contamination gives rise to the radiation hazard, and the term radiation and contamination are not interchangeable. because it's radiation contamination. Contamination is where something goes from its natural form into an altered form, and it's doing that. Why? Because of this radiation that happens to be poisonous. And this is why we read about, the side of mighty sea shall cast out fish, because you're going to have, contamination in these waters. Now, when we jump down, oh, wow, they brought it out here. So, Lord's will, I'll come back to this if the Spirit reminds me. I didn't know this was in here. Okay, so let's jump down to source of contamination. It says radioactive contamination can be due to a variety of causes. It may occur due to the release of radioactive gases, liquids, or particles. For example, if a radionuclide or used in nuclear medicine is spilled accidentally, or as in the case of the Goinia accident, through ignorance, the material could be spread by people as they walk around. All right, so let's jump down to this part right here. Health effects of contamination. Radioactive contamination, by definition, emits ionizing radiation which can irradiate the human body from an external or internal origin, right? And the word irradiate means to emit radiation too, and that radiation causes damage. That's why people that are constantly, like, a lot of times you hear about dentists just dropping dead, is because they're constantly around those x-ray machines, and especially back in the days, those x-ray machines emitted a lot of radiation. That's why they put this big heavy vest on you, big heavy lead vest on you, to block out the radiation from getting into your vital organs. All right, so you got external irradiation, internal irradiation, and I think that was the last point there. Okay, so if I remember, I'll come back to this because this part right here may come up a little later. All right, so going back here, it says, "And the side of mighty sea shall cast out fish and make a noise in the night, which many have not known, but they shall all hear the voice thereof." Yeah, because there's never been nuclear war, and although they've dropped nuclear bombs on different places and tested them, and they see that nothing really grows in those areas. They never have witnessed, this happening in an actual populated city. Because even in some of them places, I believe the one place was Bikini Island that they tested this on, people from the surrounding areas, they noticed that they were getting sick, but that was from radiation poison, whether it was, coming from the radiation of, the rays coming off of the explosion, or whether the contamination that went into the waters that came upon their shores and they ingested fish and, different things that they eat, seaweed or whatever the case is, and that was contaminated. But that's what it is. It's nothing but contamination. All right, so now let's go from there to the book of Revelation 16. Go to Revelation 16. Oops, nope. I'm going to need that. All right, Revelation 16 and 3. It says, "And the second angel poured out his vial upon the sea, and it became as the blood of a dead man, and every living soul died in the sea." Why? Because of that contamination. And what's going to cause this contamination? Well, they already polluted the earth anyways, as it is. Let's go to Isaiah 24. But ultimately, the contamination is going to take place because of this nuclear radiation, that's going to emit from the nuclear missiles and the warheads, because there's plutonium, I believe radon, or some other, elements in there that are poisonous, to the body. And this goes into that nuclear age, It goes into, biological warfare, so on and so forth. So Isaiah 24:4, it says, the earth mourneth and fadeth away. Yeah. Why is it fading away? Because the people that are ruling it, that have control and say over what's done and what's not done, are so greedy for money that they're destroying the very earth that they have to live on. It says, the world languisheth and fadeth away. The haughty people of the earth do languish. Yeah, because eventually they're going to be taken in that case also. Because the agenda of the international banking families is going to cause them to push buttons, which is the Lord anyway on the left-hand side, that is going to cause them to lose grip and to lose their empire status. So it says, the earth also is defiled under the inhabitants thereof. Let's look up the word defiled. And you can't say, well, it says inhabitants thereof, so that's talking about everybody. But who's the one that's running everything? Who's the one that has control over everything that's done? The international banking families, the Edomites in general. So the word there is chanap, which means to be profane, be defiled, be polluted. Yeah, and that's what it is, pollution. Be corrupt. Now they have different things that are going into the water, into the air, into the foods of people that are destroying them. But ultimately, when the nuclear missiles drop, they're going to emit a lot of radiation. And although that fire is going to purify certain things, it's also going to contaminate these waters. It says to be polluted, to be profane, be godless. To pollute, excuse me, cause to be defiled. So reading again, it says, the earth also is defiled under the inhabitants thereof, because they have transgressed the laws, changed the ordinance, broken the everlasting covenant. Because if you claim to be a so-called God-fearing nation and follow this, quote unquote Christian values of the Bible, going back to when so-called Christianity was real, which was the followers of Hamashiach, those tenets and these laws that are written in the scriptures are written that way for a reason. Because that causes harmony with the earth. That causes harmony among Jake, But when you go against it, it causes the opposite. And that's why you see the world in the turmoil that it's in today. And then the people that are ruling, which claim to be these benevolent rulers, that they claim to be the Most High and Yahushua and the angels and all that, they're going contrary to what the scriptures say. That's why them small hats, they're more drawn to the Talmud than they are to the scriptures. And Talmud is pretty much a perversion, a total perversion of scripture. So let's go back to, let me see. So from there, let's go back to Revelation 16. Why do I have, okay, all right. All right, so now we read this. Let's read this again, Revelation 16:3. And the second angel poured out his vial upon the sea, and it became as the blood of a dead man, and every living soul died in the sea. Why? Because the seas were contaminated. So now let's go from there to Exodus, right? Chapter 7 and verse 17. You know what? I start at 14. And the Lord said unto Moses, Pharaoh's heart is hardened. He refused to let the people go. Get thee unto Pharaoh in the morning. Lo, he goeth out unto the water, and thou shalt stand by the river's brink against a river's brink against he come. That don't make sense, but it says, and the rod which was turned to a serpent shalt thou take in thine hand. It says, and thou shalt say unto him, the Lord power of the Hebrews has sent me unto thee, saying, let my people go, that they may serve me in the wilderness. And behold, hitherto thou wouldest not hear. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, by Hashem Yahushai, and this thou shalt know that I am the Lord. Behold, I will smite with the rod that is in mine hand upon the waters which are in the river, and they shall be turned to blood. So in other words, they were contaminated. It says, and the fish that is in the river shall die, and the river shall stink, and the Egyptians shall loathe to drink of the water of the river. Right. And that's why we read here in 2 Ezra 5 and 7, in the sight of mighty sea shall cast out fish. Why? Because of the contamination. Just like it happened during the time of Egypt when Moses, was doing the miracles in the face of Pharaoh and the Egyptians. And also at the end of this destruction when, the contamination from the radiation of these missiles, pollutes the earth. And that's why everything has to be changed. That's what the scriptures say, that the Lord will bring new heavens and a new earth wherein dwelleth righteousness. Because everything is going to go, clockwise instead of counterclockwise, so you could understand. It says, let me see. It says, and the Lord spake unto Moses, say unto Aaron, take thy rod and stretch out thine hand upon the waters of Egypt, upon their streams, upon their rivers, upon their ponds. And this is pretty much what's happening now. The modern day Egypt, these rivers, ponds, oceans are all being destroyed, by these pollutants. But then once those missiles hit and that radiation emits, that's going to cause a lot of problems. Just like you had that spill, out there in Japan. I forgot the name of the nuclear plant, that had the meltdown, but that water in those areas was contaminated and a lot of sea life died. They don't really speak about that, but a lot of sea life died. It says, and upon all their pools of water, that they may become blood, and that there may be blood throughout all the land of Egypt, both in vessels of wood, Fukushima, the water, bro, the water, St. Benji, both in vessels of wood and in vessels of stone. The water, Elder Malcolm, he put it up also. A few brothers put it up. The water. It says, and Moses and Aaron did so as the Lord commanded, and he lifted up the rod and smote the waters that were in the river, in the sight of Pharaoh, and in the sight of his servants, and all the waters that were in the river were turned to blood. Right. They were turned to blood. They were contaminated. And the fish that was in the river died. And the river stank, and the Egyptians could not drink of the water of the river, and there was blood throughout all the land of Egypt. Right. So the waters became contaminated. They couldn't drink of it. Right. Now let's go real quick from there to the book of Revelation chapter 8. And we're going to start at 8. And the second angel sounded, and Salakia, let me slow down. Breathe. Inside joke. It says, and the second angel sounded, and as it were a great mountain burning with fire was cast into the sea, and the third part of the sea became blood. Right, because that star is a representation of what? A representation of contamination. But when the Apostle John saw this, he actually saw an actual star that was burning that hit the waters and turned the waters into blood. But that was a representation of contamination coming from the nuclear fire of these missiles. You got to remember that the stuff that's in there is not potpourri. It's not something that was made, to help. It's a weapon of war. Matter of fact, let's go from there to Isaiah 54, not 16. Yeah, 16. Behold, I have created the smith that blew off the coals in the fire. The ancient smiths used to make weapons, of iron. The modern day smiths are their scientists that are creating all these different types of weapons. That's the modern day smiths. It says, and that bringeth forth an instrument for his work. Right. And what was the instrument for the work of these scientists? The Manhattan Project, and all of those different things that they did was to bring about devastation by infusing or manipulating certain elements, separating certain elements from others, and combining them with others in order to create something known as a missile. You can get on up out of here. All right, something known as a missile. It says, and I have created the waster to destroy. And what is the waster to destroy? That's talking about those missiles. And that's exactly what they were created for, because the Lord created them. The Lord allowed this devil, Esau, to have his scientists, which was Teman, concoct and put together a weapon that would make the whole world fear them, put them up on top, have them to be the bully of the block, just to use that same weapon against them to destroy them. How about that? So the word is shakath, to destroy, corrupt, go to ruin, decay. Oh, and by the way, Lord's will, if I get it, if the Spirit allows, I want to do a lesson on those two magpies that the up and coming elder Karatazar from Vegas, and then the elder Pastor did a video, based on his video, them two magpies. And what I want to highlight, Lord's will, is the point that when you look at their channel, their name is Karath Israel. The word Karath means to cut, cut Israel. So why did they choose that name? It makes you wonder. But anyway, enough of them for the moment. So let's go back. And this made me think about Shakath. I don't know why, but it just made me think of the word Karath from that. But anyways, it says to be marred, be spoiled, be corrupted, be corrupt, be injured, be ruined, be rotted. Right. So that's the waster. The waster. So those missiles were not created as a something that you put up in a museum. The Lord allowed them to create this because the Lord said that the second death is coming, and that second death is the lake of fire. And that lake of fire is going to be made by these weapons. So it says to destroy, the word is chabal. There's another word for destroy, which is abad. Not ibad, but abad, because abad is destroy and ibad is servant. So chabal, to bind, to take a pledge, to destroy, spoil, deal corruptly, offend. Yeah. So the Lord vowed that he would destroy this place. And the scriptures say that the Lord's words do not go out void. And he is going to, twist, like it says here, to writhe, twist, travail. Because once those missiles hit, the scriptures say there's going to be weeping and gnashing of teeth. It's going to make people's mouth curl and all kind of funky faces they're going to be making. When they see those, and they're trying to run down the street away from the missile, and the missile's hitting, and you see that wall of fire coming by, they trying to run. So, oh, got them. Can't run fast enough, Or those people that have in their backyard, they had an underground bunker, and then they hear that the missiles are being shot, and they go back there to sit, in their nice, comfortable little shelter. And all of a sudden, boom, a missile hits and pulls them right up out of there, and that'll be their tomb. It was set up as a shelter, but it ended up being their tomb. So that's what the missiles are created for. So the Lord created the waster to destroy, and that waster to destroy, which are those missiles, have radiation within them that are going to contaminate the earth. And that's why when the elect come back down, which are going to be changed, nothing that's going to affect any of the elect. They're going to go get into, fixing the earth that this devil destroyed. And one of the very first things that the elect are going to do is do what? Go around the world and burn up all of Esau's weapons. Any weapon that's left, any missile that's left, any weapon, any tank, any plane, and anything like that these devils use for war is going to be all burnt up. Because the scriptures say that they're going to take their spears and turn them into plows. So they're going to go from a warlike people to a farming people. So let's go back to Revelation 8. Let's read that again. And the second angel sounded, as it were, a great mountain burning with fire cast into the sea. That represents the missiles. And the third part of the sea became blood. Why? Because of the contamination. It says, and the third part of the creatures which were in the sea that and had life died, and the third part of the ships were destroyed. Yeah, because there's going to be a lot of devastation, and a lot of sea life is going to die. You know, people are going to be drinking this water. It says, and the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp, and it fell upon the third part of the rivers and upon the fountains of waters. And why does it keep referring to as the third? Because the people that are governing this earth are the third classification of men, which are the sons of the wicked, which are the Edomites. And they fell upon the fountains of waters. And the name of the star is called Wormwood, right? The name of the star is called Wormwood. We're going to come back and read that. The word wormwood is absinthos. Absinthos. Wormwood, the name of a star which fell into the waters and made them bitter. So they don't really go into explaining what wormwood is. And when something is bitter, it could just be, you know, like hard to taste, right? But we know it's not just talking about being bitter. It's talking about contamination, because we'll get to it. Bitter, having a sharp, pungent taste or smell, not sweet. Right, like the bitter herbs, that's bitter. That's pungent. That's not something that you want to eat, but that's not going to kill you. This bitterness or this wormwood is talking about contamination, even though they don't really break it down here. But when we go, where is it? Right here, I have something called absinthe, wormwood, identification, and control. Now you have an herb called wormwood. And wormwood, what it does, it kills worms, it kills parasites, so on and so forth. Why? Because it's toxic. So if you take too much of this wormwood, it's going to kill you. You know, it's going to poison you. You know, too much of anything is not good. So this wormwood that's hitting these different places around the world, that's going to contaminate the water. It's contamination, not just bitter. Because when something is bitter, you're like, you put a little honey in it and you can stomach it, you know. But this type of wormwood is talking about contamination. All right, so it says absinthe, because remember the word is absinthos, and the Latin word for wormwood is absinthe. Absinthe wormwood, Artemisia absinthium, is a semi-woody clump-forming perennial native to parts of Europe and Asia that resembles sagebrush, so on and so forth. And we jump down here, toxicity. Although extracts of this plant are used in preparing the beverage absinthe, the plant is poisonous and no part of the plant should be ingested. Absinthe is banned from use in several countries and has been shown to disrupt the nervous system and may cause death when consumed in large enough quantities. It says, on the good side, because of its toxic qualities, absinthe wormwood works to deter insects, and reportedly the leaves can be rubbed on the skin for an effective insect repellent. So this is not the wormwood of Revelation, but this is just to show you that there is an herb called wormwood, you know, that is toxic, taken in large amounts. So when the scriptures speak about wormwood, it's speaking about contamination, not just something that's bitter. All right, trying to hammer that point home. So let's read this again. So it says, and the name of the star is called Wormwood, and the third part of the waters became wormwood, and many men died of the waters because they were made bitter. Right? You don't hear of men dying because they ate too many bitter herbs. You know, they drank something bitter. No, it's talking about contamination. Now let's go from there real quick. to the book of Jeremiah, chapter 9, and verse 15, which also brings up the word wormwood. I'll start at 14. But have walked after the imagination of their own heart, and after Balaam, which their fathers taught them. This is dealing with Jake. Therefore, thus saith the Lord of hosts, the power of Israel, behold, I will feed them, even this people, with wormwood, and give them water of gall to drink. And I will scatter them also among the heathen, whom neither they nor their fathers have known, and I will send the sword after them, till I have consumed them. So let's go to the word wormwood here. The word there is la aina, which sounds like a compound word. Wormwood, bitterness, metaphorically, it says, from an unused root supposed to mean to curse, wormwood regarded as poisonous and therefore accursed. Hemlock, wormwood, all right? So it's poisonous. So when the waters were made bitter, they were made poisonous, contaminated. And that's what we're reading here in Revelation 8 and 11. Now there's another instance or situation that took place, which, like I said, my eye kind of caught it here, so that's why I highlighted this part. Now there was a plant in the Ukraine, out of all places, that was called Chernobyl. And there was a disaster there back in 1986. And ever since then, that place has been contaminated. You know, the radio levels spike, I mean, there's, it's shit won't grow there. You can't really grow anything there until that place is fully cleaned up, and we know that it's not going to be cleaned up because it's until the Lord comes back, because the contamination, that's not just something you can pull up. The Lord got to work with you to do certain things and, till that ground, whatever has got to be done in order to get that place back in its proper order. And that just comes just from a chemical spill, radioactive chemical spill. So just imagine missiles with that same elements in them hitting different places of the earth, how much contamination they're going to push out. So it says, the source of radioactive pollution can be classified into two groups, natural and man-made. Following an atmospheric nuclear weapon discharge or a nuclear reactor containment breach, the air, soil, people, plants, and animals in the vicinity will become contaminated by nuclear fuel and fission products. A spilled vial of radioactive material like uranyl nitrate may contaminate the floor and any rags used to wipe up the spill. Cases of widespread radioactive contamination include the Bikini Atoll, right, which I believe that's the Bikini Islands if I'm not mistaken, the Rocky Flats plant in Colorado, the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear disaster, the Chernobyl disaster, and the area around the Mayak facility in Russia. So there are places where there has been contamination based off of these, based off of this radiation, and these chemicals. So that's what it's speaking about, here for wormwood. It's contamination from these missiles which have radioactive materials in them. And that's why we read in 2 Ezra 5 and 7 that the side of mighty sea shall cast out fish. Why? Because of the contamination that's in it. All right, let's see what else we got. So let's go back to Revelation 16. If I still have it, might have got rid of it. Boom. Here we go. Revelation 16 and 3. And the second angel poured out his vial upon the sea, and it became as the blood of a dead man, and every living soul died in the sea. And the third angel poured out his vial upon the rivers and fountains of waters, and they became blood, because they became contaminated. And I heard the angel of the waters say, Thou art righteous, O Lord, which art and was and shall be, because thou hast judged thus. Right, because this is the judgment of the Lord. And this is why these tokens are speaking now, because it's time for this devil to go down. For they have shed the blood of the saints and prophets, and thou hast given them blood to drink, for they are worthy. Right. Just like the Egyptians had Jake in captivity, the Lord turned their waters into blood, meaning he contaminated the waters. You know, because of what they were doing to Jake. How much more now? It says, and I heard another out of the altar say, even so, Lord, power almighty, true and righteous are thy judgments. Now let's go from there. Matter of fact, let me leave that just in case we come back to that. Let's go to Deuteronomy 29. And straight to the point, 23. It says, and that the whole land thereof is brimstone. And brimstone is also radiation. Fire and brimstone. Let's see. I just want to see, look up the word brimstone. The word brimstone is Gaparyath. Brimstone of judgment of the Most High's breath. Sulfur. Yeah, because there's a reason why they chose them different, even though they're toxic. They chose those different elements to make these nuclear missiles, because they cause fire too, a great fire. It says, under the whole land thereof is brimstone and salt and burning, that it is not sown. Yeah, because it can't be sown. Why? Because of the pollutants. Nor beareth, nor any grass groweth therein. And that's why the elect have to come back and set the earth back in order. You know, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Like the overthrow of Sodom and Gomorrah, Admah and Seboim, and you also had Zoar, which was a small one, which the Lord overthrew in his anger and in his wrath. Right. And to this day, really, nothing really grows in those areas. Why? Because the Lord made it so. He contaminated that area. All right. Now let's go from there. Let's go to Exodus 15. I got a couple more precepts. Exodus, where we at? Exodus 15 and 22. It says, the Lord provides water. So Moses brought Israel from the Red Sea, and they went out into the wilderness of Shur. And they went 3 days in the wilderness and found no water. And when they came to Marah, which the word Marah means bitter, they could not drink of the water of Marah, for they were bitter. Therefore the name of it was called Marah. And the people murmured against Moses, saying, what shall we drink? And he cried unto the Lord, and the Lord showed him a tree. Because you have certain trees, certain herbs, certain things that you could use and do to decontaminate things. See, when Esau talks about decontamination, they're reversing the effects of the contamination with certain things, but they're doing it artificially. See, there's things on the earth that the Lord uses for decontamination, proper decontamination, which when he had cast into the waters were made sweet, meaning now they can be drunk because they weren't bitter anymore. You know, they weren't contaminated. There he made for them a statute and an ordinance, and there he proved them. All right. So now let's go real quick. One more. Let's go to the book of 2 Kings, chapter 4 and verse 39. So that's how you see how the Lord is going to set everything back in order. Take certain, by the way, when they dropped the bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, I'm not sure if it was Hiroshima or Nagasaki, but there were many other bombings that took place in Japan, including Tokyo and many other. There's a whole list of different cities that these devils bombed. It just so happened that the last two were the worst, which was Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Now, I'm not sure which one it was, either Hiroshima or Nagasaki, where once the bombs hit, everything within its path was decimated. The radiation poison killed everything. The only two things that were left were two trees. Just bear with me. Right. So it was Hiroshima, and I thought it was ginseng tree, but it was actually ginkgo. The ginkgo biloba is very good for memory. 73 years later, the A bomb ginkgo trees still grow in Hiroshima. See? On August 6, 1945, an Allied plane dropped an atomic bomb on Hiroshima, Japan, creating a fireball 1,200 feet in diameter. Disaster rained down upon the city, killing an estimated 150,000 people. And these devils got a lot to pay for. And leveling both the biological and man-made landscapes, little was left standing, but somehow the ginkgo trees were able to weather one of the most destructive moments in human history. So there are certain elements within the ginkgo tree and other trees that I guess, for lack of better words, decontaminate that contamination. You see? And I just ran into this. I'll put it in the description. I put it in the chat in case brothers want to go to it. But that's just to show you. Now, when we go to 2 Kings 4 and 38, it says the poisonous stew. And Elisha came again to Gilgal, and there was a dearth in the land. And the sons of the prophets were sitting before him, and he said unto his servants, set on a great pot, and seethe pottage for the sons of the prophets. And one went out into the field to gather herbs, and found a wild vine, and this wild vine was poisonous. And he gathered thereof wild gourds, his lap full, and came and shred them into the pot of pottage, for they knew them not. Right. And remember earlier, we were reading how that this wormwood, this absinthe wormwood, you can't ingest any of it because it's toxic. It's toxic. But it says that it looks like the sage tree. It smells like the sage bush. So you have different, you have different herbs and different things that you could eat out in the wild. But then you have others that look just like them, that you have to know. You have to have a trained eye to be able to distinguish between the two of them, because if you ingest the wrong thing, you're going to die or get poisoned. That just shows you the dynamic of the Most High, man. Everything is balanced. Everything is one against another. So it says, so they poured out for the men to eat, and it came to pass, as they were eating of the pottage, that they cried out and said, O thou man of the Most High, there is death in the pot. And they could not eat thereof. Why? Because the pottage was what? Contaminated. It says, but he said, then bring meal, and he cast it into the pot, and he said, pour out for the people that they may eat, and there was no harm in the pot. So see, there's certain things, certain herbs that you can put in the mix that will absorb that contamination. And that's how the earth is going to be rejuvenated back again and restored back again. Through the different trees and different herbs and different things of the earth that the Lord has, that he's going to cause to, to beautify the earth once again. And, a lot of individuals think it's just all about going on the corner and cursing Esau out, put a garment on with fringes. Where your fringes at, Ak? And cursing people out. It's a whole, this truth is vast. There's so much to it. There's so much to it. So with that, this has been, the waters were made bitter, so I just wanted to just pretty much highlight this one verse here on the side of mighty sea cast out fish, which is talking about the contamination, and also the droughts that are happening. You have a lot of droughts happening now, even as we speak. The Euphrates River in certain parts is kind of drying up, pursuant to prophecy. So there's a lot going on, man. There's a lot going on. So with that, I pray that you brothers and your few sisters have been edified. Till the next time I say, Shalom.